Now before we get into the video, I do want to say a massive thank you to today's video sponsors, and once again that is jerseyfifa.com. They really do help keep the content on this channel going, and they even sent me a free shirt which you can see on screen here. And as you can see, I got the new Manchester United home kit, and genuinely the kit really is top quality. I highly recommend their product. So make sure to get in a link in the description down below, and now if you use code JerseyFifa at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. You get a great football shirt, and you help support the channel, which I really do appreciate massively.
Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, and welcome back to the Scouting for United series. The series where I look at different players around the world, and break them down tactically, technically, physically, and tell you whether or not I think Manchester United should sign them, with the aim that by next summer I'll be able to tell you that United should sign these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, however much it may be. And today we are talking about that guy up there on the screen, Enzo Fernández. But before we get started, I just want to apologise if my voice goes at all during the video. I'm getting a bit of a cold or a flu. Everyone else in the house had it, so I thought, I don't want to miss out. So, a little bit ill, but we should be alright. Let's get started. Enzo Fernández, 21 years old, from Argentina, currently playing for Benfica. Stands at about 5'8" tall, which in my opinion, that's really tall. And like I said, he's a central midfielder, a box-to-box midfielder. And that's really captured when we look at his heat map. Now, for River Plate last season, he was often playing on the right-hand side of a midfield 3 or a 2. However, this season for Benfica, he has moved over to the left of a double pivot. Exactly what Manchester United need as a long-term Christian Eriksen replacement. So immediately, that's a box ticked, looks quite good, and he covers a lot of ground. Now, at the moment, I would class him as a box-to-box midfielder, but I think he has the ability to perform a few different roles. But at the moment, very much box-to-box, and when we look at the stats, I want to look at some of his stats from last season. Now, we could look at some of his Benfica stats, we will come on to that, but the sample size is small because he hasn't been there for very long. So let's go back to the Argentinian League, River Plate last year, and look at the progressive passes and the through passes per 90 minutes. So on this graph, the further to the right you are, the more progressive passes you are playing per 90, and the further up the graph you are, the more through passes you are playing per 90. So if you're bottom left, that's bad. You're not doing either of them very often. If you're top right, it's ideal. Look who is top right. Enzo Fernández. Miles clear of everyone else in the league. And as an early indicator, that's quite a good sign. Very progressive with his passing. Again, exactly what United need. But he is so much more than that as well. And again, being a box-to-box midfielder, we can see that in his duels won. So again, if we go to the graph and kind of explain it, the further right you are, the more duels you are competing in per 90 minutes. And the higher up the graph you are, the better the completion rate. So again, bottom left would be worse because you wouldn't be attempting as many and also winning a lower percentage. Struggling to get my words out there. Top right, again, look who was there, Enzo Fernández. So we can see that last season in the Argentinian League, he was right up there. For River Plate, he was probably the best midfielder in the league last season. And that's what makes him ideal to come into this Manchester United team. Especially now the fact that for Benfica, he's playing on the left side of a midfield too. Now, in terms of tactically, sort of the role that we could see him playing, I think he could be moulded into less of a box-to-box midfielder and perhaps more of a deep ball progressor. Now, I'm not talking about being a regista sitting just in front of the defence, but a deep-lying playmaker playing to one side. I certainly think that's something he could do. And it is something he's kind of done at spells in his career. So obviously we were seeing in those graphs earlier, he's very good at progressing the ball with his passing. If you watch videos of him, his quick passing around the corner is really impressive actually. And also what he's starting to do for Benfica is even when starting on the left-hand side of midfield, he'll often drop in at right centre-back to progress the ball, or of course left centre-back, having already been over to that side. So he is a player that is happy to drop deep, let the other players push forward, and then progress the ball from there. So that's obviously a good sign. The only concern I would have, or the question mark I would have, or the grey area perhaps, is his press resistance. Now, again, that's mainly because the sample size is quite small. There isn't really a ton of situations where he gets heavily pressed in his own defensive area, in his own defensive third. So I can't really sit here and tell you, yes, he is definitely press resistant and can definitely play on the turnout from the back. But I also can't say, no, he can't do that. The signs are there that he certainly could. And I think more so he might be one of those players that gets out of the press with his passing rather than dropping a shoulder. He's, like I was saying a minute ago, his quick passing around the corner is really impressive. I really recommend you try and watch Benfica, one for Fernández, one for some other players as well. But one thing you will notice is that when he receives the ball, yes, he is happy to take a couple of touches and kind of carry the ball forward a little bit. He's okay with the carries, but it's actually quick passes round the corner. So we'll receive it from the centre-back, and before the opposition can even react, he's shifted the ball further forward into the next line of midfield. And again, that is something that Manchester United desperately need. So from that point of view, he does look like an Erik ten Hag midfielder. Going back to the stats, and here are some of his stats this season. And I think the one that jumps out to me is the 114.6 touches per 90 minutes. That's extremely impressive. If we compare that to United players, they're often averaging around 60 touches in the midfield. So 114 shows that he is very much a player that wants to dictate the game. Benfica are becoming a heavily based possession side, and Fernandes is a big part of that. And as a result, he's very comfortable on the ball. That's what I keep saying. He's very, very good with the ball at his feet. So he could be the sort of player as Ten Hag tries to transition this team. At the moment, United are quite transitional, playing on quick attacks. As Ten Hag looks to evolve the team into a team that dominates the ball, Enzo Fernández could be the perfect midfielder to do that. Again, especially the fact that he's now doing it from the left-hand side for Benfica. He looks like a really positive player for United moving forward because he's so comfortable on the ball. Scott McTominay's having a good season so far, but he isn't that sort of player that will really dictate a game with his passing. We're seeing Eriksen do it. Fernandes could do it to like another level. Going back to the stats, what I also like is the long passes per 90. This is 10.1 accurate long balls per 90 minutes. That's really impressive. I was looking at stats from a game the other day and I think it was 16 out of 17 long passes. That's very, very impressive. And again, if we go to Erik ten Hag's side, it's perfect for how Ten Hag likes his side to play. We know that the wingers push high and they hold the width, or at least someone's holding the width, perhaps sometimes it will be a fullback. So the ability to pick the ball up in this deep area and then switch to play, particularly from the left-hand side from Fernandes to Antony on the right wing, that's really promising because it's a way to quickly transition an attack. Especially with United currently being quite left-side heavy at times, it kind of draws the opposition over to one side. So if someone like Fernandes could then be in the team, switching the play deep from left to the right wing, it's just an easy way for Manchester United to quickly switch the attack and get the ball moving forward. What other stats have we got here? The interceptions per game are good, the tackles per game, and the possession won per game. It's all pretty good stuff. And we can also look at his stats from the recent Champions League game against Juventus. Now, this game he didn't actually have quite as much of the ball as what he normally would. 92 touches, though, is still a lot. We can see in the heat map there, still very much the left side of the midfield. 3 out of 4 long passes, not quite as much as what he would usually have, but that weren't an issue of his or a fault of his. That was just how the game played out. But what we can see is that he's still getting his basics right. The 11 out of 16 ground duels won, the 3 out of 3 dribbles attempted and completed, and very, very high pass percentages. He's a really good footballer on the ball. Really, really good footballer on the ball. Tactically, I think he could evolve and develop into a perfect midfielder for Ten Hag. Genuinely, I do. As kind of this deep left side progressor. Now, like I was saying at the start, I think he has the skill set to adapt into a few different roles because he's also pretty good at getting forward as well. Sorry about the voice going there. But he is also pretty good at getting forward, and especially kind of like in a channel, in this little half space, he is excellent at putting the ball into the box like this. So this kind of deep creation, something that United don't really have, he's very good at it. Now, perhaps not quite as good from the left-hand side as what he is from the right, so that's something that we might have to see change and adapt as he progresses. Sort of for River Plate, though, we would regularly see him in this area, and it looks like the defence are in a settled defensive structure, and out of nowhere, Fernandes just clips a ball over the top, in behind the defence, and breaks them down with one pass. That's certainly something he could do, and again, it's something that United could use. Creation from deep. He also likes arriving late on the edge of the penalty area to have a shot. So like I said, I think he does have the capabilities to play as a bit more of an attacking midfielder. Maybe even a Mezzala sort of role. But personally for United in particular, I think kind of as a deep progressor on the left-hand side, occasionally getting forward, but more so looking to really progress the ball forward, whether that's long passing or through the lines, I think it looks really ideal for what United need. And the good thing is that his injury record is impeccable. If we look at the transfer market website, they can't find an injury of his, which is obviously just a brilliant sign. Now, hopefully I haven't jinxed that, touch wood, but that's an excellent thing that he hasn't picked up any injuries. Hopefully for the sake of his career, wherever at United or Benfica or another club, hopefully that continues. The big issue with any move is the price, and the fact that clubs are reacting late to his talent. Now we're now seeing Liverpool linked with Fernandes, Manchester United have been linked. He of course moved in the summer for €10 million plus potential €8 million in add-ons, which means in total, if all the add-ons get added on, it's about £15 million that he moved from River Plate to Benfica. So Benfica, first of all, credit to them, they got themselves an absolute bargain, and they're going to make profit on this player, because his release clause is now reportedly £108 million. That means if he was to go for his release clause next summer, Benfica have made like over 90 million profit in a year. That's incredible business, so shout out to them. But again, it's United or Liverpool's recruitment system not quite being on point. They should have been on this player before the move to Benfica. However, that doesn't necessarily mean he would cost 108 million, that's just his release clause. If Benfica are willing to negotiate, then the price can come down, but that is probably the main sticking point at the moment, is the price. The injury record is good, the performances in big games are good, his performances in general over the course of the season are good. Last season he showed his kind of all-roundness, that's not really a word, but we'll use it, his all-roundness as a midfielder, winning his duels, winning a lot of tackles, interceptions, but then also progressing the ball for his side, covering a lot of ground. Everything is perfect, except the price. Very, potentially very expensive. Now, like I said, I don't necessarily know the exact how much he would cost. I don't have access to those numbers. I couldn't really tell you, but I think he would cost a fair amount, especially if he keeps up his performances, because early in the season for Benfica, he has been absolutely brilliant. And Benfica play PSG in the Champions League this week. That's a big test, so I really recommend you watch that game. Because it would be a big test for Fernandes to really prove himself against some of the best midfielders in Europe. So, looking forward to watching that game. In terms of for United, I think it looks really good. I really like the fit of how he would come into this team. Now, of course, he's not someone like Frankie de Jong level, someone like that. But as an alternative, someone who people don't know quite as much about, I really like the look of this. I really do like the look of this. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a B rating. In terms of tactically, I think he fits perfectly. He's at an age where he can still develop into Ten Hag's system. Technically, he's a wonderful footballer. His injury record is good. The only problem is the price. If it was cheaper, I'd put this up to an A. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean I'm saying he's the best midfielder in the world, but just the tactical fit, everything, he just looks so fitted to signing for this United side. The question is the price. I can't push it any higher than B when it could be costing upwards of £80 million for a player who's only done it for a couple of seasons. We'll have to wait and see with the price. If like the reported numbers come down, then I could maybe boost his rating to an A. Or if the price goes up further, maybe it comes down to a C. Right now, I think a B rating. This is a player that United have to be looking at. I'd be amazed if he's not on the list of players they are looking at right now, because he's really, really good. And if he doesn't go to United, if the price is small enough, he will get his big move in the next 18 months to a really top European club. No offence to Benfica, they've done a brilliant job here. But I can see him making a move quite soon. He's really good, and I'd love to see him in the Premier League. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Have you seen him play? If you haven't, I really recommend that you do go watch him. And again, that game against PSG this week, keep an eye out for that one. If you do watch that, let me know what you think of his performance. Let me know what you think of him as a player. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.